I was the unrequited love of the campus belle. Chased for years. She pursued me for 4 years. I rejected her for 4 years. Later, my attitude softened. Just when everyone thought we would finally have our happy ending, I cruelly rejected her once more and left the country without a word. Heartbroken, the campus belle gave up on this misguided love. Everyone assumed I didn't love Tsuchinue, but no one knew that due to my frail health since childhood, I had developed a hard-to-cure heart condition. I didn't want to be a burden to Tsuchinue. 3 years later, I returned. I intentionally avoided her and joined a small company. However, while working overtime alone on a company project, my heart condition relapsed and I died alone. Not long after my passing, Tsuchinue received the news. She said nothing. She didn't even shed a single tear. She didn't even attend my funeral. Her friends were disheartened by Tsuchinue's overly cold attitude, and they gradually drifted apart. But this seemingly cold and strong person succumbed to depression a few years later. Tsuchinue never told anyone about her illness, choosing to face her demise with lonely grace. The two of us, who were in love with each other, never yielded to one another after we met again. Like two lines that once intersected, we ultimately diverged, drifting further and further apart. So after being reborn, I decided to live without regrets, to save the girl who had loved me for 7 years. I picked up my phone and sent a text message to Tsuchinue, who was pinned at the top of my contacts. After a minute, I quickly unsent it. There was no response from my phone. It seems Tsuchinue's heart was completely broken. She wouldn't easily step into this fire pit again. Remembering the girl's stubborn yet forbearing expression, my heart ached faintly. Meanwhile, in the top floor office of the Sue Corporation, Tsuchinue was reviewing documents. Her stunningly beautiful face had a touch more coldness and maturity compared to her school days. A special notification tone from her phone made her jolt. She tossed aside her expensive fountain pen and opened the pinned message. In the message box labeled Lin Bei, words had appeared after so many years. "Do you have time to meet?" Tsuchinue clutched her phone tightly, her eyes fixed on the screen without blinking. She held her breath, just as she tried to confirm it again. The message in front of her was quickly unsent. She remained motionless. After a long while, she blinked very slowly, as if waking from a long dream. A subtle curve appeared on Tsuchinue's lips, which she quickly suppressed. "He probably sent it to the wrong person. Don't be delusional. He doesn't like you. He hates you." Tsuchinue picked up her pen again, but made no move. The ink from the nib blackened a large part of the contract. She lowered her head. My image surfaced in her mind, always smiling faintly, sunny and cheerful, the way she loved him most. Tsuchinue was lost in a daze. Suddenly, a knock on the door broke her train of thought. In an instant, Tsuchinue concealed all her emotions, becoming the decisive and efficient President Sue again. Just then, a woman with delicate features was peeking into the office from the door. Tsuchinue glanced at the time. "It's not quitting time yet. What are you doing up here?" During the time I had just gone abroad, Tsuchinue's days were dim and decadent. Shujishia, as her best friend and university roommate, had been taking care of her. Later, when Tsuchinue pulled herself together and took charge of the Sue Corporation, Shujishia also contributed both money and effort. She is currently the administrative director at Sue Corporation. Shujishia walked into the office, rubbing her head with a troubled expression. Tsuchinue narrowed her eyes and said deliberately, "The time you're wasting will be deducted from your salary." "Don't." Shujishia jumped up in alarm and slammed a piece of paper on the desk. "See for yourself." Tsuchinue lowered her gaze and casually swept over it. Her eyes suddenly fixed on the top right corner of the paper. It was a resume. In the top right corner was a square photo. In the photo, I was smiling freely and openly. Tsuchinue's fingers unconsciously caressed the photo. In a trance, it seemed as if I was really smiling at her. Seeing Tsuchinue's long silence, Shujishia sighed inwardly. She knew it. It had been so long. Although Tsuchinue never spoke of it, she had never truly let me go. "Chinue," Shujishia began tentatively, "if you find this difficult, how about I reject this resume?" "Why reject it?" Tsuchinue looked up, her tone icy. "If he submitted his resume through the proper channels, I respect his choice." But Shujishia hesitated. How much of an impact I had on Tsuchinue? She was not unaware. Tsuchinue paid her no mind. She handed the resume over. "Follow the procedure. From now on, you don't need to specifically inform me about his matters." She looked Shujishia in the eyes and said, word by word, "I have no need to pay extra attention to an ordinary colleague." Shujishia looked at her for a few seconds, sighed, and left the office. When the office returned to silence, Tsuchinue's rigid body relaxed slightly. She lowered her eyes, her beautiful face hidden in the shadows, as if coated with a layer of eternally unmeltable frost. Soon, I was dressed in a professional suit. Standing at the entrance of the Sue Corporation building, the junior employees in the downstairs cafe were chatting and laughing. A person walked out of the elevator and came towards me, and the employees instantly fell silent. All eyes were glued to the scene unfolding over there. I looked at the meticulous and cautious woman before me. She was Tsuchinue's university roommate. In my previous life, she was also the one who, on behalf of Su Qingyue, attended my funeral. She cried with genuine sorrow. However, I knew she wasn't crying for me. She was crying for Su Qingyue. She knew that Su Qingyue, having lost me, would eventually become a soulless vessel. I glanced at the name tag on her chest and bowed. Hello, Director Shu. Im Lin Bei, here to interview for the legal department. Shu Jixia ducked her head, becoming even more constrained. I was once the handsome top student of the law school. A figure on a pedestal like that made her heart flutter with just a glance, especially since I was the crush of her best friend. She forced a smile. Come with me. I followed Shu Jixia into the elevator. Her aura was cold and sharp. Director Shu personally came down to get him. Could he be Director Su's boyfriend? Everyone tacitly labeled me as being in a passionate relationship, pushing open the door to the interview room. I was taken aback. Sitting in the center was a stunningly beautiful young woman with a cool and detached demeanor. In just 3 years, she seemed to have been completely transformed. From the once insecure and sensitive young girl, she had rapidly grown into a business legend in the industry, a stark contrast to the naive and tender image of her past. Su Qingyue was flipping through the documents, turning the few pages back and forth. She really looked like a meticulous interviewer. I paused only for a moment and sat down in the central chair with a calm expression. Hello, President Su. Im Lin Bei, here to interview for your company's legal department. Su Qingyue didn't look up, still continuously flipping through my resume. Since she didn't speak, I was very patient. For a moment, the only sound in the room was the rustling of paper. After a while, she finally put down the resume, looked at me and spoke coolly. I've reviewed your qualifications and abilities. There's nothing to question. I just want to ask you one thing. Why did you give up the opportunity to join the California State Court? That should be a dream opportunity for any law student, wouldn't you say? Or perhaps I should ask you. Su Qingyue's gaze was heavy. Mr. Lin, why did you come back? Hearing this, a corner of my mouth lifted in a fearless smile. For someone, Su Qingyue's expression froze. She forced herself not to read into it, yet her gaze involuntarily landed on me. She suddenly recalled the text message from yesterday. Was it really meant for her? She heard the tremble in her own breath, the hidden expectation in her heart, and a rush of overwhelming emotions constricted her throat, rendering her speechless. I continued, a smile playing on my lips. For my mentor, my esteemed mentor, is getting on in years and plans to retire this year. I came back this time, primarily to help him mentor a group of his graduate students. A slight smile touched my lips. Since things aren't too busy for the time being, I decided to look for a job. The interview room fell silent, as if time itself had paused. Su Qingyue's expression darkened. She stared at the resume in her hands, saying nothing for a long moment. Suddenly, she let out a laugh. It was a soft, ambiguous sound. Mr. Lin, you truly are a devoted student. Su Qingyue closed the resume. Her eyes, sharp and probing, were fixed on me. A storm seemed to be brewing in the twilight of her dark eyes. I replied modestly, it's the least I can do. Lin Bei, you already ran away? Why did you have to come back? Su Qingyue clenched her jaw, her words clipped and deliberate. After more than 10 minutes of this tense reunion, her true emotions finally broke through the surface. I raised an eyebrow, thinking to myself, she's finally dropping the stranger act. I wasn't afraid of Su Qingyue's anger at all. In fact, I was hoping for it. When a wound gets infected, simply covering it up is useless. I was more afraid of her suppression. A silence as impenetrable as ice. Thankfully, she had left a crack in the wall shed built around our past, a space for light to get in and melt the ice. I remained silent for a long moment. Just as Su Qingyue thought I wasn't going to answer, I slowly lowered my head and said softly, because I regret it. The words were so soft, they seemed to dissipate into the air, and yet they were so heavy, they landed with a thud in Su Qingyue's ears. Su Qingyue bit her lip hard, afraid of falling into the same trap again, afraid of letting herself hope for more. The memory of my rejection 3 years ago resurfaced, hitting her like a physical blow and making her head spin. She was terrified of becoming that version of herself again, the one who lost her own identity. So pitiful and desperate, begging for any scrap of affection I might let slip through my fingers. That wasn't her, not anymore. Quickly, Su Qingyue reined in her emotions. Once again, she was the cold, detached interviewer. She didn't look at me, nor did she acknowledge what I'd said. She stood up, her brow slightly furrowed. This interview is over. HR will notify you of the results. She strode away on her long legs. But as she passed me, she looked down at me sitting in the chair. Her voice was flat as she said, the Su Group is currently expanding its legal department. This legal counsel position is critical, which is why I conducted the interview personally. It would have been the same for any candidate. The moment the interview room door clicked shut, a wide, intrigued smile spread across my face. I thought back to her parting words. If she truly didn't care about me, she wouldn't have needed to explain anything. Yet, she went out of her way to add that last part. Was she warning me not to cross a line, or was she trying to convince herself she was over me? I didn't stay idle during the few days I waited for the results. I ate well and relaxed, jogging around my neighborhood in the afternoons. I deliberately paid no mind to what was happening with Su Qingyue. The residential complex where I lived was a rather upscale, affluent area. Privacy was a high priority, so you rarely saw anyone around. In this kind of setting, Su Qingyue, standing just a few meters away, was particularly conspicuous. She was walking toward me, accompanied by a man in a sharp suit. His black three-piece suit gave him a rather imposing air. I glanced at the man, and my eyes immediately met his cold, sharp gaze. Su Qingyue didn't say a word. Seeing me panting for breath, she frowned because of my heart condition. The intensity of my recent workouts hadn't been very high. I kept it well within my body's limits, but the faint paleness of my lips gave me a sickly appearance. What are you doing here? Su Qingyue stopped a few paces away. After a brief pause, she asked the question. Catching my breath, I looked up. President Su, what a coincidence. I live here. Before I could finish, the man I'd ignored moments before suddenly stepped between us. He extended a hand toward me. Hello, I'm Liu Wei, project manager at Hongda. He turned to Su Qingyue with an accusing tone. Aren't you going to introduce me? Who is this gentleman? Seeing my impassive response, Liu Wei's brow furrowed, and he was about to press the issue when I suddenly burst into a fit of coughing. It startled him, making him take 2 steps back. Su Qingyue suddenly spoke up. Mr. Liu, you should head back for now. Our work for today is finished, but we've only just begun our discussion. Liu Wei started to complain, but when he turned his head, he found himself being stared down by a pair of cold, emotionless eyes. Let me say this one last time. I don't appreciate business associates contacting me outside of work. With that one short sentence, she firmly put Liu Wei back in the box of a mere business associate, extinguishing any fantasies he might have had. Liu Wei's face turned pale. He couldn't understand why a man as capable and considerate as himself couldn't capture Su Qingyue's interest. Can you still walk? I looked up, realizing Su Qingyue was speaking to me. I glanced at Liu Wei. His expression was already incredibly sour. I simply stood up. I can walk, President Su. Although Su Qingyue maintained a cold and detached facade, anyone could sense that her attitude toward me was different. Liu Wei gripped the documents in his hand, shot me a venomous glare, then turned and walked away. I gave a helpless shrug. His leaving already? I haven't even done anything yet. After Liu Wei left, Su Qingyue took 2 steps closer, scrutinizing me from head to toe. Mr. Lin, your complexion is frighteningly pale. I may need to reevaluate your suitability for the position. Given the demanding workload at the Su Group, we need a lawyer in better physical condition. During our university years, I'd hidden my illness from everyone. Luckily, my condition wasn't severe back then, so I appeared perfectly normal. It was only after I went abroad that my condition worsened. Therefore, Su Qingyue had no idea I had a heart condition. My illness, it was the very reason we went our separate ways. I had no intention of hiding it this time. I intended to let her discover the truth on her own. I feigned a moment of surprise, then let a small smile play on my lips. Does this mean I've been hired, President Su? My voice was gentle, and the way I said President Su carried a strange sort of intimacy. Su Qingyue turned her head away, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Her tone was deliberately sharp. I said, I need to reevaluate. Hearing this, I straightened my posture, my gaze landing squarely on her face. Even after a reevaluation, I will still be your best choice, President Su. My confident tone made her turn her head back to me. A strange thought crossed her mind. Even though this was their second time meeting again, it was only now that the reality of my return truly hit her. This golden boy, who had made her heart flutter countless times, had crossed time and space to stand before her once more. The heart in her chest began to pound against her ribs, one beat at a time. I was about to say something else, when a sudden wave of dizziness washed over me. Before I could even process it, a slender, pale hand shot out and steadied my elbow. I looked down at Su Qingyue and murmured, Thanks. Su Qingyue's brow furrowed even deeper. She held back for a moment, but then couldn't resist a sarcastic jab. Linbei, what have you done to yourself? You look like a ghost. Despite her words, the hand supporting me tightened its grip. A half smile played on my lips. I was quite fond of Su Qingyue's gruff concern. I changed my expression, pretending to be stung by her words. I lowered my gaze and softly said, I'm sorry. Seeing my reaction, Su Qingyue grew even more agitated. I wasn't blaming you. I just forget it. Though she sounded impatient, she released her grip gently. Next time I see you, I definitely won't meddle. Su Qingyue turned and walked away, leaving me to watch her retreating figure. She said next time. So Su Qingyue isn't as resistant as she appears. Looks like I still have a chance. The next morning, I reported for duty at the Su Group. Mr. Lin, this is your desk. Dressed in a black suit, I cut a tall figure, with fair skin and refined features. I exuded a unique charisma. The young woman from HR guiding me stole a glance at me, her mind screaming, Oh my God, how can anyone be so handsome? And he's a top-tier lawyer with unparalleled skills. I nodded and was about to ask another question when the office door was suddenly pushed open. Shujishia walked in. The HR woman looked from Sujishia to me, then tactfully excused herself. As she left, she gave Shujishia several more looks, leaving her feeling rather bewildered. I broke the silence. What is it? Is there a work assignment for me? Shishia hesitated for a moment, then gathered her courage. I need to talk to you. Before I could even respond, she hastily added, it's about Su Qingyue. For a split second, panic flickered in my eyes, but I quickly composed myself. I let out a slow sigh. You're going to ask me to leave, aren't you? I kept my head down, my expression a picture of dejection. I said nothing, yet my silence spoke volumes. Sujisha didn't know what came over her. She had come here, full of righteous anger, intending to demand that I stay away from Su Qingyue. But seeing me in this state, she found herself unconsciously making excuses for me. After all, I didn't look like a heartless jerk who would just cast someone aside. A small smile touched my lips. I know she resents me. Don't worry, I won't bother her. As I spoke, I looked up at Shujishia, my gaze lost and desolate. Shujishia's brow furrowed. How can I not help Su Qingyue win him back, she thought. Am I supposed to just let her die alone? At this thought, she gritted her teeth. Ignoring Su Qingyue's earlier warning, she burst out, I'm so done with you two. I can't take it anymore. I'm just going to ask you this for Qingyue. Do you love her? Sujishia's cheeks were puffed out, her gaze intense and focused on me. It was as if the moment she heard a yes, she would charge up to the president's office and drag Su Qingyue right in front of me. A smile danced in my eyes. She's catching on. I subtly composed my expression, my tone turning somber. Getting Su Qingyue to open her heart isn't the hard part. The hard part is untangling the knot I created when I abandoned her. As long as that knot remains, Su Qingyue might take me back, but there will always be a thorn in her heart. I don't want any regrets, so for now I have to take things slow. Seeing me fall silent, Sujishia unleashed a barrage of revelations. I've secretly peeked at Qingyue's desk. Her drawer is filled with your photos. Every year, on your birthday, she disappears completely. No one can reach her. My birthday was the day I went abroad 3 years ago. It was also the day I cruelly rejected and humiliated Su Qingyue. Shujishia grew more agitated as she spoke. She hasn't been with anyone else all these years. She can't forget you. I cut off her rambling stream of words. I was sick, I replied quietly. So you left Qingyue because you were sick. Shushia's mind was already racing, piecing together a tragic story. She looked at me with the pity and heartache one might reserve for a terminally ill patient. My gaze dropped. I don't want to make excuses for myself. Leaving without a word like I did was my fault. Sujishia shot up from her chair about to leave. No, I have to tell Qingyue. I shook my head, my gaze firm. I don't want her pity. Fine, I won't tell her. Then you? Sujishia trailed off, hesitant. Her feelings toward me had suddenly become complicated. She was Su Qingyue's best friend. I had hurt Su Qingyue so badly, causing her to fall into a deep depression. Completely changing her personality. She should hate me. She should be stopping me from getting anywhere near Su Qingyue. But looking at me now, she couldn't bring herself to hate me. There was even a voice deep inside her that whispered, he was sick. It wasn't his fault. He and Su Qingyue are so perfect for each other. Shujishia felt a great weight of responsibility on her shoulders. As if she had come to a realization, Shujishia made a decision. She had to get us back together. In the half month since I'd started, I hadn't seen a trace of Su Qingyue. It was as if she was deliberately avoiding me. Even the work I was assigned was trivial and unimportant. I was happy for the downtime. Like someone who's seen it all, she probably still hasn't figured out how to face me, or rather, how to face our past. No rush. I've given her enough of a buffer. I took out my phone and made strategic use of my wingman, Sujishia. If she wouldn't come to me, I would go to her. I arranged to have lunch with Shujishia. The two of us appearing together in the staff cafeteria predictably drew a lot of stares. We ordered our food and found a corner spot by the window. Hey, look, it's Director Shu and her boyfriend. I heard he's one of our company's lawyers. Yeah, they look so good together. I listened to the whispers, my eyes lowered and a smile playing on my lips. Across from me, Shujishia was engrossed in her food, commenting occasionally, Mr. Lin, have some of this, have some of this. It's good for you. Not far away, Su Qingyue was about to step into the elevator, when words like boyfriend and lawyer caught her ear. She paused and glanced into the cafeteria. The room had mostly cleared out, making the two of us incredibly conspicuous. I sat by the window, sometimes eating, sometimes looking up, to listen quietly to Shujishia's endless chatter. The scene was harmonious and pleasant, creating an intimate atmosphere that seemed to exclude everyone else. Su Qingyue frowned. She suddenly changed direction and strode into the cafeteria. Sujishia, you seem to have a lot of free time. She's finally here? Holding my chopsticks, I looked up. She was frozen in place, but Su Qingyue's gaze was fixed solely on Shujishia. Her tone was low and dangerous. As I recall, the Hongda case has been dragging on for a while, and you have time to sit here and flirt. Shushi's eyes widened in an instant. The Hongda case, there's still plenty of time for that. Why is Qingyue suddenly in such a rush? For a second, Shujishia was completely baffled. She glanced at me, silent, and seeing the look on Su Qingyue's face, she immediately pleaded her innocence. I swear I wasn't. How could I possibly have those kinds of thoughts? I wouldn't have dared then, and I don't dare now. I was amused by Shujishia's clumsy explanation, which instantly made Su Qingyue's frown deepen. She glanced at me subconsciously, then quickly looked away. Who asked you to explain that? She said coldly. I stood up, offering an apology. Sorry, Director Shu. I've taken up your time. With that, I turned to leave. Without a second thought, Su Qingyue reached out and grabbed my hand. Noticing my surprised gaze, she immediately let go, annoyed with herself. What am I doing? Her expression shifted, a battle of emotions on her face. But in the end, she said nothing. Simply looking away, my eyes lingered on Su Qingyue's face for a moment. Then I gave a sad smile and turned to leave. Shujishia, knowing the truth, was frantic, but didn't dare to speak up, only letting out a deep sigh. Qingyue, Lawyer Lin didn't do anything wrong. Su Qingyue snapped her head up, a sarcastic smile on her lips. I was the one who was wrong. How could the great Lin Bei ever be wrong? It was my fault for not knowing my place, for loving him all those years. In matters of love, Su Qingyue had always been a coward. She had been brave just once for me, and lost everything. Qingyue, Shujishia had intended to stay quiet, but then she remembered the sad look in my eyes as I left, and how Su Qingyue only ever lost her composure because of me. She clenched her fists, and as if throwing caution to the wind, said, "Why don't you give Lawyer Lin a chance?" Su Qingyue was about to speak, but Shujishia cut her off. Qingyue, you understand. This is a chance for you too. A flicker of something crossed Su Qingyue's eyes. A trace of wariness settled on her features. For the past half-month, her heart had been in constant turmoil. Yet just now, when she saw me, it had unexpectedly calmed. She had been running, but she couldn't deny that she had never forgotten me. Have Lin Bei join the Hongda project? With that one sentence, Su Qingyue left. Sujishia was stunned at first, but then understanding dawned and she clapped her hands in excitement. Hongda was the biggest project the Su group was handling. Su Qingyue was the lead on it, personally overseeing the project's progress. Letting me join this project meant I would be seeing Su Qingyue often. I was standing by the elevator when I received a message from Sujishia. I read it and raised an eyebrow with a smile. Sensing someone approaching, I put my phone away. "Hello, President Su," I said respectfully. Su Qingyue glanced at me, standing a good distance away from her, and stepped into the elevator. Noticing I was still frozen in place, she said with a hint of exasperation, "Well, are you getting in? Aren't you taking your private elevator?" I clenched my fists, hesitant to step inside. Am I that intimidating? Su Qingyue leaned forward, one hand holding the elevator door open, her calm, steady gaze fixed on me. I took a deep breath and stepped into the elevator, standing beside Su Qingyue. From time to time, I snuck glances at her. Su Qingyue, of course, had noticed my furtive looks. She stared at the changing floor numbers. "A top lawyer like you," she said suddenly, "and you're too scared to even speak." I quickly looked away, holding my breath for a second. The elevator doors slid open. I rushed out in one go, then turned back to her with a smile. "I'm sorry, but I'm really happy to see you again." Those two sentences, coming out of nowhere, made Su Qingyue's resolve soften instantly. A second before the doors closed, a slender, pale hand pressed against the sensor, stopping them. "Lin Bei, I haven't forgiven you." Certain emotions, long suppressed, seemed to break through the floodgates with that one sentence, sending a tremor through her very being. Su Qingyue let out a heavy breath. Ever since our reunion, the frustration and pain that had clouded her heart suddenly lifted almost entirely. My eyes widened as I looked back. Through the closing elevator doors, I saw in Su Qingyue's eyes a rare glimpse of the vibrant girl from our school days, mixed with a faint, almost imperceptible smile. She's smiling. I was reminded of the Su Qingyue from our school days, as if I could hear her saying again, "Hey, you promised you'd come to my performance. Why didn't you show up? I haven't forgiven you, you know. Unless you promise not to miss the next one, and the one after that, your punishment is to watch me perform for the rest of your life." For a moment, the image of the young Su Qingyue in my memory and the Su Qingyue before me seemed to overlap. I blinked. The smile on my face grew wider. She's still the same as before, proud yet soft-hearted. I was right. I had to let her be the one to take the next step. After all, for someone so proud and stubborn, no amount of teasing or getting closer on my part would have worked. Hongda is the largest catering company in Mountain City, with numerous restaurant chains under its name. On the first day Su Qingyue allowed me to join the project, I was standing at the company entrance, a stack of files in hand. A black Panamera suddenly pulled up in front of me. The window slowly rolled down, revealing a cool, beautiful face. Su Qingyue glanced at the time. "I'm going on this inspection too." "Get in." Not wanting to be difficult, I agreed. But I hesitated, wondering whether to open the passenger door or the back door. I paused for a moment, sensing my hesitation. Su Qingyue said coolly, "Sit in the back. He'll be your driver." I was momentarily speechless, catching the sarcasm in her tone. That brief smile from Su Qingyue the other day felt like a figment of my imagination. Now, she was back to being the cold, unapproachable President Su. I immediately opened the passenger door and got in. Thanks, President Sue. The warm sun streamed through the window, shining on my face. I squinted slightly, enjoying the comfortable warmth on my skin. Su Qingyue glanced over, her grip tightening on the steering wheel. The soft music playing in the car masked her racing heartbeat. She opened her mouth to speak, but ultimately chose to remain silent. There was so much she wanted to ask. She wanted to ask why I came back. She wanted to ask why I chose the Sue Group. She wanted to ask who I was talking about when I said I regretted things during my interview. She wanted to ask if she was still in my heart. Her thoughts were in such a tangle that even after deciding to properly sort through this past, she found herself at a loss for what to do. Mountain City has changed so much. I had, at some point, opened my eyes and was now gazing out the window. Skyscrapers filled the view. I let out a soft sigh, a mix of nostalgia and wistfulness. In back, it feels like a dream. Su Qingyue turned to look at me. I thought you had no attachment to this place. That's why you could leave so decisively back then. At her words, I slowly sat up straight, gazing at her cold profile with a self-deprecating smile. I thought so too, that I could leave everything behind. Clearly, I failed. I turned my head and continued to look out the window. The traffic light ahead turned red. Su Qingyue slammed on the brakes, her hands gripping the steering wheel. Enough. Su Qingyue had wanted to ask, but now that I was actually about to say it, she found she didn't want to hear it. The feeling of being lifted up high only to be thrown down again was too painful. So painful that she didn't dare risk it a second time. I pressed my lips together, but I said the words anyway. As you've guessed, I had ulterior motives for joining the Sue Group, leaving that ambiguous statement hanging in the air. I closed my mouth and said no more. Turning my head to look out the window again, my heart in turmoil, a long silence settled in the car. A soothing piano piece played softly in the background. Su Qingyue still said nothing, but she reached out and turned off the music. Her mind was in chaos. Su Qingyue, wearing a mask of indifference that only intensified when she was nervous, uttered a few cold words. Whatever. If you let this affect your work, I'll fire you myself. It was a tacit approval of my advances. I stared at Su Qingyue's profile for a long moment. Just as her palms began to sweat from the tension, I broke into a wide, unrestrained smile. Let's make a bet. I'll become the best lawyer the Sue Group has ever had. Su Qingyue's brow twitched. She understood my hidden meaning instantly. The weather is nice today, I said, changing the subject. Can I open the window? President Sue. Su Qingyue's thoughts were all over the place. She gave a distracted yes, but then the image of my pale face when Shed found me in the neighborhood flashed through her mind. The image of my pale face. She quickly hit the lock button again. No, you can't, she said firmly. Why not? I asked, a little confused. Su Qingyue turned her head to the side, her tone softening slightly. We have a meeting later. I'd like to have a legal counsel with a clear mind. Not one who's been frozen stupid. Just as she finished speaking, we arrived at our destination. Su Qingyue stopped the car. She looked straight ahead and asked, as if it were a casual thought, I meant to ask you last time, what's going on with your health? I don't remember you being in such poor shape. I quickly hid my brief panic and broke into a smile. Su Qingyue was momentarily stunned. I leaned across the console toward her. Our faces so close we were almost nose to nose. I tilted my head slightly, my voice a low murmur that slipped into her ear. President Sue, are you that concerned about your subordinate? You don't happen to like me, do you? Su Qingyue was at a complete loss for words. The faint scent of sandalwood on me made her feel dazed for a moment. It reminded her of the boy I used to be, the one standing under the school's sycamore tree, the boy who looked at her with bright, gentle eyes. While she was lost in thought, I had already opened the car door and gotten out. Don't worry, President Sue. I won't let this affect my work. Su Qingyue leaned back in her seat, listening to my retreating footsteps. Each one seemed to land directly on her heart. Su Qingyue and I arrived at Hongda for the inspection. The person in charge of the handover was Liu Wei, whom we had met before. From the moment Su Qingyue walked in, Liu Wei's eyes were glued to her, his gaze fixed longingly on the empty seat beside her. Su Qingyue, seemingly oblivious to his stare, turned to me. She pulled out the chair next to her. You sit here? I smiled slightly, and without a second thought, immersed myself in the Hongda collaboration case. The name Zhongsheng caught my attention. I subconsciously touched my chest over my heart. Zhongsheng was the small company I had randomly joined in my past life to avoid Su Qingyue, and Zhongsheng was a subsidiary of the Sue Group. It was while working overtime on a Zhongsheng project that my heart condition had relapsed, leading to my death. I narrowed my eyes and carefully read the document's contents. Sure enough, among the target companies for Hongda's latest restaurant promotion, Zhongsheng was listed. It seemed that no matter what, it all came back to my illness. Just as I was thinking this, my heart suddenly seized with a sharp pain. I nudged Su Qingyue's elbow. Trying my best to sound normal, I said in a low voice, President Sue, I'm sorry, I don't feel well. I need to step out for a moment. Su Qingyue, who had been completely focused on the proposal, saw my pale face, and without hesitation, pulled me out of the meeting room. What on earth is wrong with you? Su Qingyue scrutinized my face, not missing a single change in my expression. She was about to take me straight to the hospital, but I leaned against the wall, taking a couple of slow breaths. It's nothing, just an old problem. It'll be fine after a little rest. Su Qingyue's brow was tightly furrowed. I squeezed her hand and forced a smile. I don't want to disrupt the work. Don't worry. I know my own body. Disrupt the work? Su Qingyue clenched her jaw, letting out a laugh of pure frustration. What on earth is going on in that head of yours? I was starting to feel better by then, the color slowly returning to my pale face. I seized the rare opportunity to joke with her. You are, I said, then quickly stole a glance at her. Her expression was dark, a shadow falling over her cool features. Su Qingyue's gaze met mine. Seeing that my color was returning, she secretly breathed a sigh of relief. She was both annoyed and amused by my cautious demeanor. She relaxed her clenched fist and said coolly, "Forget it. I can't be bothered with you." I asked her in a low voice, "The company team building is the day after tomorrow. Are you going?" Su Qingyue pondered for a moment, but didn't give a straight answer. "We'll see if I have time." The next day, the company organized a team building trip to East Mountain to see a meteor shower. In my past life, it was here that Su Qingyue met Fang Yuan, the young master of the Fang group. Fang Yuan fell for Su Qingyue at first sight and relentlessly pursued her afterward, using his family's influence to try and force her into a marriage alliance. But Su Qingyue remained firm, never yielding. After I returned to the country, the existence of Fang Yuan had caused me a period of gloom. To nip that relationship in the bud, I joined the team building trip. But the main character herself, Su Qingyue, surprisingly didn't show up. I strongly suspected she was deliberately avoiding me. More importantly, the man I casually helped up on the walkway turned out to be none other than Fang Yuan. I spoke softly. "Are you also here to see the meteor shower?" Fang Yuan pouted. "I only came because I heard you could make a wish." As darkness fell, the moonlight draped a veil over the sky. Fang Yuan asked enthusiastically, "Do you have a wish?" A flicker of sadness passed through my eyes. I smiled and said, "I'm in love with someone. She is my wish." Fang Yuan was momentarily stunned. The intense, sorrowful love in my voice, like a vast, deep ocean, bottomless and silent, made his heart skip a beat. He stared at me, speechless for a long moment. I broke the tension myself. "The meteors should be here soon. Get ready to make your wish." "Okay." Fang Yuan snapped back to reality, secretly making a resolution. I will protect his love story. A sudden sound from behind interrupted their conversation. I looked toward the source of the sound. The newcomer took 2 steps forward. Her stunning features gradually revealed in the moonlight. Su Qingyue spoke coolly. "Looks like I came at a bad time. My apologies for interrupting." Her long, black coat made her look tall and elegant. A gray knitted scarf draped over her wrist. Her bangs, left unstyled, fell naturally across her forehead. A faint blush colored her jade-like cheeks, softening the unapproachable, distant air she usually carried. Seeing that I was safe and sound, she finally stopped in her tracks, letting out a quiet sigh of relief. Just as beautiful as ever. No wonder a young master like him would fall for her at first sight. I glanced back at Fang Yuan. There was no look of infatuation on his face. Instead, he looked wary. "Who are you?" Su Qingyue shot him a glance, but didn't answer. "What happened to you?" "Su Jixia said she couldn't find you." I froze for a second, feeling restless under Su Qingyue's urgent gaze. I answered instinctively. "I was looking for a spot to watch the meteor shower." Su Qingyue's gaze fell on me, sitting on a bed of dry leaves. She casually masked the panic she'd felt when she got the call. And the frantic rush up the mountain. In silence, she handed me her scarf. When I didn't react, she spoke slowly. "Sit on this. The ground is too cold." As if afraid I would refuse, she quickly added, "Don't make everyone worry." I took one end of the scarf and looked up at her. "Will you watch with me?" Su Qingyue froze for a second. She glanced uneasily to the side, where Fang Yuan immediately took the hint. With a knowing look, he quietly turned and walked away. When we were the only 2 left, Su Qingyue turned back. Her slender fingertips touched her lips, and with a light cough, she said, "I don't have time." I let go of the scarf, my expression falling. My voice was heavy with sadness. "I know, when you finally had time, I was always the one who missed it." I murmured the last sentence, almost to myself, but Su Qingyue heard it perfectly. Her heart ached for no reason. I'm starting to regret it. She should have been happy. For some reason, her heart was filled with an unbearable ache. It felt as if tiny insects were slowly, meticulously devouring her heart. I turned my head away, opening my eyes wide to keep the tears from falling. The ground beside me shifted, and when I turned, Su Qingyue was sitting next to me. She spread the scarf on the ground, and as if surrendering, patted the space beside her. "Sit." Su Qingyue looked up at the star-dusted sky, her tone stiff. "We have a tough battle with Hongda coming up. The legal council can't afford to get sick." I moved closer. Her delicate scent instantly surrounded me. Su Qingyue instinctively looked at me, as if I hadn't noticed her gaze. I inched closer to her, slowly and carefully. Just as I was about to brush against the soft fabric of her black coat, Su Qingyue suddenly said my name. I looked up, and my eyes met Su Qingyue's piercing, icy stare. "So, why did you come to the Su group?" "I want to hear the reason now." I felt a surge of panic, but I didn't look away. I just watched her quietly. When I didn't answer, disappointment slowly crept into Su Qingyue's expression. She sighed and turned away. "Fine, I won't force you." Suddenly, a streak of light shot across the sky. It was followed by several more, scattering like pillars of light across the horizon. In an instant, the sky was ablaze with a dazzling display. Suchingyue remembered the wish she had made on her 19th birthday. She had wished to stay by my side forever. But her forever had ended the year I left. My wish is Suchingyue, a low voice said beside her. Did you call me? Hearing her name, Suchingyue frowned, but as she looked up, she froze. I had placed a simple silver ring in the palm of her hand. My voice was slow but firm as I repeated. I said my wish is you. The silver ring. This was the matching set of rings I had saved up for by working part-time. There were 2 rings. I had secretly kept one and gave her the other as a birthday present. I had strung my ring on a chain and wore it as a necklace. That ring rested safely in the spot closest to my heart. Suchingyue looked at the ring in her hand and curled her fingers around it. She remembered, just before I left the country, she had accidentally discovered the secret of the rings. She came to find me on the day I was leaving, wearing her ring. But I told her it was just a gift between friends, and that I hated clingy people. The proud young heiress, face flushed with anger. She had pulled off her ring and thrown it into a roadside trash can. She had left without a single look back. This one, in her palm, was hers. The capital letter S was engraved on the inside. Her heart in turmoil, Suchingyue stared at her clenched fist. Under the shooting stars, a shimmer of light danced in her eyes, reflecting the crystalline glimmer of tears in the night. Her heart stirred. Her voice was low as she spoke. Linbei, do you want to be with me? I don't want to play these guessing games anymore. Let's give each other a chance, and then let it go. Are you saying you want to give up on me? I'm sorry, Linbei. Suchingyue stood up, unconsciously tapping her foot on the ground. Can I have a hug, girlfriend? If that's what you want to call it, then yes, of course, but it's okay if you don't want to. I agree. Suchingyue stopped moving. She turned to look at me, her voice laced with disbelief. Are you sure? I used the tree trunk to slowly pull myself up and looked at her calmly. From now on, you're my girlfriend. I took 2 steps forward and opened my arms. A smile touched my pale face, betraying an unnatural agitation. Suchingyue's heart pounded in her chest. The ring in her palm seemed to burn her skin. Without much hesitation, she stepped forward and hugged me tightly. Her hair brushed against my cheek. I could feel the warmth of my breath. Each exhale a soft beat against her heart. I held Suchingyue in my arms and spoke softly, at least until you decide to break up with me. Let's give this a real try. Okay. Suchingyue hummed a soft yes, the vibration from her chest reaching my ear. I smiled and held her even tighter. Suddenly, a small hand patted the soft flesh at my waist. Her voice was low and cool, laced with an unexpected sensuality. So now, boyfriend, can you tell me, what's wrong with your health? In the quiet of the night, Suchingyue saw a flicker of hesitation in my eyes. Then I gave her a mischievous smile. Right now, your boyfriend would rather kiss you. Suchingyue's eyes widened, the tips of her ears turning bright red. She was completely flustered by my bold, direct words. I lowered my head the moment my warm lips touched hers. Her uniquely sweet scent seemed to seep into my very being. The only thought in my mind was the overwhelming desire to kiss her deeply. Just as Suchingyue was losing herself in my kiss, I suddenly pulled away. My warm breath ghosted across her face. Is there anything else you want to ask? Suddenly, a single finger pressed against my lips. Suchingyue's voice was soft. Not now. I'd rather kiss you too. In the next moment, an eager kiss, like a crashing wave, enveloped my gently beating heart. Under Suchingyue's undisguised affection, a sudden sense of peace washed over me. The Hongda meeting was nearing its end. From the very beginning, I had felt it. Li Wei's hostile gaze fixed squarely on me. I was unfazed, meeting his stare openly. And Suchingyue, sitting beside Li Wei, seemed to have most of her attention focused on me. The moment I made a move, she would lean in and whisper, "What's wrong?" I secretly took Suchingyue's hand under the table. I was just wondering when we're going on a date. The warm touch of her skin was a light, teasing pressure. Suchingyue's expression didn't change. She maintained her meticulous Ice Queen president facade, but her pinky finger gently hooked around mine. Her voice was cool, but laced with concern. Whenever you want. I stole a glance at the others in the meeting room. Besides Xu Jixia, who was beaming like a proud aunt, and Li Wei, who looked utterly defeated, everyone else looked like they wanted to stare but didn't dare. Their mouths agape in shock. This open display of affection, so bold and natural, left me secretly amazed. I always felt like there was something strange about Suchingyue. This wasn't the same girl from back then. The innocent girl who would blush at the slightest teasing. Was she planning some grand scheme to torment me? Suddenly, Lu Wei stood up. He adjusted his tie, his gaze full of affection as he looked at Su Qingyue. President Su, that concludes our meeting. Also, Lawyer Lin, could I speak with you privately about the project? You didn't need a crystal ball to know. He was about to start trouble again. Su Qingyue didn't even bat an eyelash. Her hand tightened around mine. Can't I listen in? Lu Wei gritted his teeth, looking embarrassed. A small smile touched my lips. Of course, Mr. Lu, let's go. Su Qingyue's brows knitted together slightly. Giving me a disapproving look, I winked at her, my smile brimming with confidence. Su Qingyue turned away unnaturally, the tips of her ears slightly red. After we sat down at the coffee shop downstairs, Lu Wei immediately got to the point. What's your relationship with President Su? She's been paying far too much attention to you lately. Just a few days ago, Su Qingyue had been so restrained and reserved. Now she was showing her affection so openly. How could he stand it? My brow furrowed almost imperceptibly. When I spoke again, my tone was much colder and more distant. I don't believe I have any obligation to tell you. Lu Wei paused, realizing his tone had been too harsh. He forced a smile. I'm sorry. I've known her for a long time. She's very important to me. I really like her. I was just too eager and lost my composure. You're not mad, are you? A grown man and his eyes were already red? Anyone who didn't know better would think I was the one interrogating him. I took a calm sip of my coffee. Since you're being so sincere, of course, I'll forgive you. However, my relationship with President Su is my private business. I don't wish to discuss it. Are you sure you want to pry into a lawyer's private life? Li Wei's face turned shades of pale and green. He had done his research on me before this. How could he have forgotten? Beneath my calm and collected exterior was a rising star in the legal world, known for being a force to be reckoned with. He gripped his cup, trying to compose his expression. He steered the conversation back to his original purpose. Hongda has a sub-project. At his words, my heart skipped a beat. Sure enough, Lu Wei pulled some documents from his bag and placed them on the table. Hongda has a restaurant chain called Dongxing. As the main project manager for Hongda, I'd like for you to take over this sub-project, Lawyer Lin. This project is a bit difficult. I only trust your abilities. Dongxing was a barbecue chain targeting the low to mid-range market. The reason this project was considered tricky was because all its locations were in questionable neighborhoods, with ties to some gray area businesses. Big profits, but also big losses. Fights and dine and dashes were basically a daily occurrence. I picked up the documents, remembering my past life. It was while handling a particularly nasty brawl that I was accidentally injured, which triggered a fatal heart attack. A sudden surge of pain welled up inside me, heavy and oppressive, making it hard to breathe. My expression turned cold. Seeing my long silence, a triumphant smile spread across Lu Wei's face. He deliberately provoked me. It's understandable if you refuse, Lawyer Lin. It would just be a shame that this collaboration won't be as perfect. I slowly looked up, the shadow on my face completely gone. A smile touched my lips. My tone was cool as I said, I accept. Just as I walked out of the coffee shop, a conspicuous white Porsche was parked at the entrance. Su Qingyue was standing by the passenger door, her waist slim and legs long, exuding an exceptional aura. Su Qingyue looked at me, stunned, and immediately sensed my low spirits. Her lips tightened as she said in a low voice, I shouldn't have let you go. I didn't quite hear her and took 2 steps closer. Su Qingyue tucked her arm into mine. Let's go, as you wished. We're going on a date. The sudden closeness and her familiar, comforting scent slowly lifted my spirits, which had been dampened by memories of my past life. But hearing her words, I was a little dumbfounded. Isn't it working hours right now? Su Qingyue looked up with a playful smile. I'm the boss. Tiny stars danced and shimmered in her eyes. I waved my hand and broke into a laugh myself. All right, boss. Your wish is my command. The corners of Su Qingyue's mouth turned up. The sunlight fell on me, just as the stars forever chase their moon. This is your idea of a good place for a date. Su Qingyue gazed at the sycamore trees lining the school road, lost in some memory. Her smile faded, and she grew silent, her beautiful face turning colder. I knew what she was thinking. The wall she had run into so hard during her school days, and the person who never showed up. I didn't need to guess to know she was in a bad mood. I broke the silence and asked, do you regret it, having once liked someone like me? Su Qingyue's brows knitted as she retorted, what kind of person are you? Her brow was furrowed, showing no embarrassment at being called out. After a moment, Su Qingyue let out a soft sigh and answered my question with a serious expression. I've never regretted it. The wind rustled the fallen sycamore leaves on the ground. The leaves seemed to eagerly cling to the hem of Su Qingyue's skirt. She bent down and picked one up, naturally changing the subject. These trees are still the same. I felt a pang of regret. It seems the time isn't right yet. Su Qingyue is still unwilling to untie this knot in her heart. Suddenly, a surprised gasp interrupted the unspoken tension between us. A woman wearing glasses and holding a stack of books was staring at me eagerly. Lin Bei, is that really you? I looked at the woman before me and recognized her as my university classmate, Xiaowan. Xiaowan pushed up her glasses and said shyly, it really is you. I haven't seen you since graduation. I stayed on to teach at the university. Actually, I have something to return to you. As she spoke, she grew suddenly excited. Su Qingyue, who had been pretending to be indifferent, immediately stepped between us. Excuse me, he already has plans with me today. It was only then that Xiaowan noticed Su Qingyue beside me. For 4 years of university, she was the one who passionately pursued me. The famous campus belle from the neighboring college. Xiaowan lowered her head, clutching her books. Her face slightly flushed. She had actually admired Su Qingyue's courage. Even though in university, I had never accepted Su Qingyue. It was as if we had already had a widely known romance. If she had been as brave as Su Qingyue back then, would things have turned out differently? As if a thought struck me, I patted the back of Su Qingyue's hand. I'll go get my things back first. Jealousy laced Su Qingyue's voice. Is it really that important? I gave her a strange look. I walked over to Xiaowan. Thank you for keeping them safe for me. We can go retrieve them now? Unexpectedly, Xiaowan pulled an envelope directly from her thick stack of books and handed it to me. I was thoroughly surprised. For someone she might never see again, she had actually carried my belongings with her all this time. Su Qingyue's gaze instantly turned guarded. She took a few steps but didn't come closer. Choosing to turn her back instead, I didn't take the envelope immediately either, waiting for what Xiaowan would say next. Sincere people shouldn't be easily hurt. Witnessing the tacit, silent tenderness between us, Xiaowan didn't say anything more. She gave a relieved smile, tucked the envelope back into the book, and handed the entire book to me. I looked down. The title was Stories of the Sahara. On the title page, written in black marker, was a quote. Every time I miss you, a grain of sand falls from the sky, and thus the Sahara was born. One is often trapped for a lifetime by what they couldn't have in their youth. But everyone makes their own choices. The proud girl chased with all her might, her love loud as beating drums. The introverted girl remained silent, yet she cherished the rose in her heart forever. Xiaowan had no regrets, because she had finally conveyed her feelings to me. Seeing that it was just a letter, Su Qingyue's guard dropped slightly. She asked tentatively, "Is it?" Seeing her cautious demeanor, I found it amusing. I took the envelope from the book and held it. It's not a love letter. Su Qingyue's eyes instantly locked onto the envelope, her gaze growing dangerous. Before she became impossible to soothe, I stuffed the envelope into her hand. It's for you, President Su. Although Su Qingyue's expression didn't change and remained cold, I could clearly feel her mood shifting from cloudy to sunny. Su Qingyue coughed lightly and took the envelope. Her slender fingers unfolded the paper. There were only a few words inside, but her gaze grew increasingly gentle. Before I accompany you to the next performance, let's be together. It was my response to the promise she once made. It was the sentence I didn't get to finish under the sycamore tree that year. A sincerity hidden in the details she wouldn't have noticed. I lowered my head and spoke slowly. Because of some unexpected events, I went abroad, so I never gave it to you. I hope it's not too late. Having dropped this bombshell, I waited anxiously for Su Qingyue's response. However, the scene didn't play out as I had imagined. Su Qingyue hugged me tightly, burying her face deep in my chest. She didn't pull away. I couldn't see Su Qingyue's expression, but I could feel it. Ever since I returned, Su Qingyue had been like a taut string, and now that string had finally snapped. She feared my approach, but feared my departure even more. Desire and self-loathing constantly tormented her heart. Perhaps this is exactly why, in my past life, after learning of my death, she spiraled so quickly into fatal depression. So I must give Su Qingyue unwavering choice and love. Otherwise, she will still, amidst her insecurity, walk towards that predestined ending. That night, I sat on the sofa, drinking bitter herbal medicine and deep in thought. It seems she must have investigated me that night, found out about my illness, and probably guessed the reason I left. No wonder her attitude had been so strange since that night. She really intends to start over with me. That explains why, despite her insecurity about us, she refuses to retreat a single step when facing me now. It's a bit of a failure on my part, making her feel guilty after all. I sat on the sofa, muttering to myself, and took another sip of the medicine. The bitterness made me squint. The current situation has indeed disrupted my pacing. I had originally planned to continue playing at an office romance with Su Qingyue for a while, but this doesn't seem too bad either. The next day, I went to Dongxing. It was located at a crossroad. To the left was a vocational school, and to the right, a high-rise, unfinished building. All sorts of shady characters frequented that abandoned building. In the distance, there was a construction site. Most of the other shops were renovation stores. Dongxing was the only restaurant in the area, so business was indeed quite good. Having grasped the general situation, I went into Dongxing for lunch. As soon as I entered the restaurant, I felt a very unfriendly gaze landing squarely on me. I looked back with a cold expression. It was a burly man in a black tank top, with a few lackeys scattered around him. I remembered him as Wang Long, the leader of this gang. I walked straight to a corner and sat by the window. In my past life, after refusing to pay for his meal, Wang Long had harassed the waitress serving the dishes. The waitress was a young girl, who was humiliated and angry. She resisted vigorously and accidentally knocked over a bottle of alcohol on the table. Wang Long, who was already drunk, grabbed the bottle and started attacking the young girl. No one around dared to stop him. Just then, a few students passing by after school rushed in. By the time I arrived, it had already escalated into a massive brawl. In the chaos, I was shoved to the ground, suffered a heart attack, and died despite rescue efforts. I ate my lunch unhurriedly. No rush. None of them will get away. Suddenly, a lackey in a floral shirt shouted, arrogantly beckoning me over. Yo, a new face. Come over and have a drink. I pretended not to hear, finished my last bite, straightened my clothes, and stood up to leave. Ignored and humiliated, the lackey flew into a rage and came over to grab me. But before he could even touch my arm, he was forcefully twisted around by a strong grip. The lackey's face turned red as he tried to break free, but he found that the seemingly slender hands were clamping him down like steel. He grimaced in pain. My expression didn't change. The moment the lackey started cursing, I increased the pressure. Wang Long's face went dark, staring at the man who dared to disrespect him. I let go, and the lackey stumbled and fell to the side. Terrified yet cursing under his breath, he crawled to Wang Long's side. Useless. Wang Long spat, downing a mouthful of alcohol. It wasn't clear who he was talking to. It seemed he was going to take action himself. I cracked my knuckles, seemingly forgetting my identity as a lawyer. The law can solve problems, but right now, I want to take out the trash. Wang Long and his lackeys stood up in unison with a crash. Glaring menacingly, the tension was explosive. Suddenly, a spirited voice broke in, and a large group of people surged into Dongxing. Brother Lin, I exclaimed in surprise. Fang Yuan, what are you doing here? Fang Yuan led a large group of bodyguards into the restaurant, pretending not to notice Wang Long's group. He cut right between our lines of sight, shielding me completely. He lowered his voice. Are those guys trying to start something with you? Seeing my silent confirmation, Fang Yuan was furious. How dare they bully his savior? His burly bodyguards immediately followed his gaze and glared angrily at them. Wang Long crushed his cup and stood up to leave. I sighed. You haven't paid yet, have you? Wang Long stared at me with a murderous look, but I just looked back at him calmly. Seeing this, Fang Yuan slammed the table. I dare anyone to try and dine and dash. Wang Long looked at the bodyguards filling half the restaurant, his face twisting in embarrassment. He kicked the lackey beside him hard. Pay up. The lackey hurriedly pulled out a wad of cash and threw it on the table. They fled in a panic. Fang Yuan immediately turned to me. Brother Lin, are you okay? My dad has a project at the construction site over there, so I came to inspect it. What are you doing here? I shook my head. This is a project I'm in charge of, so I came to handle some things. Fang Yuan breathed a sigh of relief. I see, but how are you going to deal with those scumbags? Rough people require rough methods. It'll help you. After that, Fang Yuan simply and crudely called in batch after batch of bodyguards, just to ensure Dongxing could operate normally. Over time, incidents became fewer and fewer. At the same time, due to the improved security, business actually began to boom. To think the Fang Group's bodyguards were being used for this, it made me laugh and cry. Students who previously didn't dare to come now frequented Dongxing. I arranged special discounts for the vocational school students and created some simple part-time jobs. This provided students in financial difficulty a chance to earn money, preventing them from going astray for the sake of cash. Thus, the students who had stood up for justice in my past life received their good karma in return, and I had managed to avoid my accidental death. Dongxing was settled, but during my investigation I discovered that Wang Long's gang actually included several wanted fugitives. Furthermore, there were plenty of petty criminals among them. Wicked people will be punished by the wicked. I thought as I closed the file. I submitted the evidence I had collected on Wang Long and his gang to the police station. However, a few days later, while I was inspecting the site, I heard a strange noise behind me. I turned around alertly, realizing I had noticed him. Wang Long stopped hiding. He jumped out, clutching a knife. He looked completely wretched. It seemed that under the police manhunt, he had been living on the run for days. He brandished the knife, eyes full of malice. I had no quarrel with you. Why did you have to send us all to prison? Since you're determined to drive me to a dead end, then you can die with me. Wang Long lunged at me, knife swinging. I kicked the knife away, spun around, and pinned Wang Long's wrist under my foot. Looking at Wang Long grimacing in pain, I spoke softly. It seems you still don't understand. It's not that I want you dead. You planted these evil seeds yourself, and you are destined to reap them. A ruthlessness flashed in my eyes. Wang Long didn't doubt for a second that I wanted to kill him. Suddenly, a silver light flashed. With his other hand, Wang Long pulled a dagger from his jacket. I dodged back just in time, but he still managed to slash my ankle. I stumbled back 2 steps, suddenly feeling heart palpitations. It seemed my past life was still affecting me. Seeing this, Wang Long quickly scrambled up and lunged at me with the dagger. In the nick of time, several bodyguards in black rushed out from the alley. The next second, Wang Long hit the ground hard. He tried to speak. A bodyguard knocked him out with a clean punch, then expressionlessly added a few more blows. that landed with brutal force. But when I saw the figure walking slowly from behind the bodyguards, I froze. Su Qingyue. I was genuinely surprised. She was supposed to be on a business trip all week. Yet she was back 3 days early. Su Qingyue didn't answer me. Her face was dark. She bandaged my wound without a word, methodically called the police, and calmly handled the aftermath, ensuring that Wang Long's life in prison would be well taken care of for the rest of his days. It was her usual efficient style, but I could feel that Su Qingyue was furious. After giving our statements at the police station, I sat in the passenger seat watching Su Qingyue. Unsure of what to say, Su Qingyue gripped the steering wheel tightly, trying hard to control her emotions, but her trembling voice betrayed her panic. Linbei, must you be so cruel to me? You're sick. You took on a mess as big as Dongxing. If you didn't want to tell me these things, I could have pretended not to know. But if something had really happened to you, how would I survive? As she spoke, her entire body began to tremble slightly. No, you've already been hurt by him. I quickly pointed to my ankle, trying to show her, to soothe Su Qingyue, who was spiraling into anxiety and self-blame. It's nothing, just a small scratch. I looked at my ankle, where the white bandage wrapped almost all the way around. Qingyue took one glance and turned her head away in pain. It's because I wasn't good enough, that you didn't tell me anything. It's my fault. How can I let go when you're like this? Tears welled up in the corners of her eyes. She had clearly reached her limit. I reached out and stroked her head. Sighing softly, I spoke helplessly. Don't worry. No matter how tricky the Dongxing situation was, didn't I handle it? As for my illness, I received good treatment during my 3 years abroad. I can be with you for a long time. I won't die that easily. Su Qingyue raised her head. Her deep voice sounded like melting ice, gentle yet firm, giving her strength. I know. I've already contacted the top international medical teams. I guarantee you will have a long life, longer than mine. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. So her business trip was for my illness. I held Su Qingyue's hand in return. I believe you, but you'll have to prove it to me. Su Qingyue smiled. Since the day I left, the frost in her eyes finally melted away. Warmth surged in my heart, knowing Su Qingyue's character. Once she found out about my illness, she would never let go. This wasn't exaggerated possessiveness, but a deep sense of guilt. She would only feel that she hadn't been firm enough back then, that she hadn't given me the security to confess to her. Even though she was already in so much pain, she was still terrified that I would suddenly leave her. Even if I didn't say it, she would protect this relationship in her own way. But I didn't want Su Qingyue to bear it alone. She had walked alone for so long. To finally get to me, she deserved unconditional love. Even if I had to use extreme methods to force out Su Qingyue's true feelings, it was worth any price. For the next few days, I stayed with Su Qingyue, enjoying our hard-won happiness. But one day, I received a call from an unknown number. The caller claimed to be Su Qingyue's mother and wanted to meet. I arrived at the agreed-upon Western restaurant and looked at the woman with a dark expression before me. I felt a sense of unease. Something was wrong. In my past life, Su Qingyue's mother had been very supportive of us. Why did she look so hostile now? But at the thought of Su Qingyue, I sat up straight, my smile polite and appropriate. I greeted the woman flawlessly. Hello, Mrs. Su. Zhang Wan set down her tea gently, but her words were anything but polite. Mr. Lin, I won't waste your time. I'll be blunt. I will not consent to you being with my daughter. Hearing this, my heart sank, but I didn't back down an inch. Mrs. Su, you've probably already investigated me before coming here. I believe I am worthy of Qingyue. Any objective factors you're unsatisfied with, I can overcome. Jiang Wan looked up at me, seeing my confident and determined expression, my calm and dignified demeanor. She thought I seemed like a good young man. She sighed. You are very confident. I admire that, but there are things in this world that cannot be overcome. Jiang Wan adopted the air of an elder looking at a youngster. Taking a sip of her tea, I know with your abilities you can achieve those things, but Qingyue isn't worth such sacrifice from you. I waved my hand anxiously. No, you've misunderstood, Qingyue. Jiang Wan spoke with heartfelt sorrow. Just because I subtly urged her to get married a few years ago. She told me yesterday she's getting married. So hastily, she clearly just... Jiang Wan seemed unable to continue, taking a few sips of tea to quell her anger. I, however, was starting to get confused. I hurriedly explained to Jiang Wan, she's not marrying me to deal with family pressure. We truly love each other. Jiang Wan slammed her teacup down again. Mr. Lin, you are a smart man. You must know she has someone she's liked for a long time. She loves him to death. How could she marry someone else so quickly? I really didn't know whether to laugh or cry this time. I asked cautiously, is it possible that the person she's liked for a long time is me? Jiang Wan froze instantly. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Seeing Jiang Wan so adamant, I started to doubt myself. Could Su Qingyue have another white moonlight besides me? Seeing that Jiang Wan seemed to have misunderstood something, I re-explained the whole story to her, and even took out a photo from our university days. The photo showed a young us standing under a sycamore tree, smiling brightly at the camera. I was looking at the camera, while Su Qingyue leaned against the tree. her gaze fixed intently on me. This photo was taken candidly by someone else, after her performance. We each had a copy. Jiangwan was initially skeptical, but when she saw the photo, she believed everything. She slapped the table. That girl Qingyue, I often saw her these past few years, pining over this photo and refusing to eat. She would even disappear on the same day every year, coming back looking utterly devastated. At this point, an indescribable expression appeared on Jiangwan's face. She would secretly cry over this photo. Hearing this, I made a very subtle connection. Jiangwan continued, I thought the person she liked was no longer alive. I facepalmed, feeling both amused and heartbroken. Su Qingyue, that silly girl acting so cold and arrogant on the surface, was actually secretly crying over my photo. When she missed me, understanding everything now, Jiangwan's attitude did a complete 180. She immediately changed her tune. My good son-in-law, may you have a harmonious union and children soon. Don't tell Qingyue I came to see you. If she finds out I told you about her embarrassing moments, she'll complain to her dad again. I hummed in agreement, pointing a finger towards the door. It might be too late, Auntie. Standing by the window was a girl with a cool, striking aura. Looking at me with a faint smile, Jiangwan gave a bitter laugh. Her dad is going to nag me about meddling again. With that, she grabbed her bag and ran. See you next time. Not long after Jiangwan left, Su Qingyue opened the door to the private room and walked in. She sat down opposite me quite naturally and called the waiter to order. She ordered all my favorite dishes. I propped my chin on my hand, admiring her elegant and beautiful movements, and asked casually, how did you know we hadn't eaten? Su Qingyue closed the menu and pointed in the direction Jiangwan had left. When my mom confronts someone, she never orders food. Firstly, for her image. Secondly, to relieve her nervousness. Remembering how Jiangwan had been drinking tea the whole time, I couldn't help but chuckle. Your mom is actually quite easy to get along with. But you, secretly hiding away, crying over my photo, are also very cute. Su Qingyue choked, coughing for a while before sitting up straight. Her jade-like face flushed red. She turned her head, feigning composure. Don't listen to my mom. I didn't. Feeling mischievous, I teased her. But Shujishia said so too. The blush on Su Qingyue's face hadn't faded. She gritted her teeth. Looks like Shujishia really wants to work overtime for the next month. I smiled slightly. Are you denying that you missed me? Su Qingyue mumbled, still stubborn. No, I'm only denying crying over your photo. Just then the food arrived. Seeing that I stopped teasing her, Su Qingyue finally breathed a sigh of relief. She elegantly served me food, returning to her calm and composed self. I looked at her and changed the subject. You knew your mom came to find me. Weren't you nervous? What if she persuaded me to leave you? Or revealed other secrets about you? Su Qingyue stared at me, her tone earnest. I wasn't nervous. I trust you. You can know everything about me. I can give you my everything. Coming from Su Qingyue, I had no doubt she meant it, because she never speaks sweet nothings, only promises. Time froze in that moment. In that instant, there was only me, who had secretly loved her for years, and Su Qingyue, who was trying hard to get close. In the days that followed, neither of us mentioned the past again. Instead, we fell into a sweet romance. Su Qingyue had never cared about what others thought, and our displays of affection were bold. Basically, everyone in the company knew that the perennial Ice Queen president had finally gotten her wish, and was with her college sweetheart. The guy was the newly hired, hotshot lawyer who had caused a stir with his looks and skills, and who had once been mistaken for Director Shu's boyfriend. Those colleagues who had previously shipped Director Shu and me, or just watched the drama, all kept their heads down, silently accepting the dog food that President Su personally shoved into their mouths. Everyone had to offer their congratulations to President Su. One day, I was waiting for someone by the elevator when a petite girl excitedly approached me. Lawyer Lin, long time no see. She was an assistant in the legal department named Mo Huan. She was simple-minded and innocent, and we had become decent colleagues. However, she had been on a business trip recently and hadn't been in the office. Mo Huan looked excited, bouncing in her high heels. Lawyer Lin, let's go downstairs for coffee later. I was about to say something when a clear cough interrupted her. Su Qingyue was behind her, a finger pressed to her lips. Noticing my gaze, she slowly lowered her hand, her cool eyes staring at me quietly, as if reminding me, you already have plans with me. I laughed, apologizing to Mo Huan. I have plans today. Can I treat you next time? Perhaps the atmosphere between Su Qingyue and me was too unusual, because Mo Huan sensed something. She asked tentatively, do you have plans with President Su? Hearing this, I realized that before Su Qingyue openly showed intimacy with me in the company, everyone thought I was Shu Qia's boyfriend. And in the eyes of Mo Huan, who had missed everything, the ambiguity between Su Qingyue and me seemed improper. Before I could explain, a hand slipped through my arm. She deliberately leaned close to my ear. I'll wait for you at 8 p.m. Mo Huan frowned instantly, her gaze darting between us, trying to find a trace of reluctance in me. But the next second, I took Su Qingyue's hand, my low laughter carrying a warm breath. Okay, you pick the place. Su Qingyue's ears turned red at my words. I shrank my neck back, but my eyes held a sweet smile. Mo Huan looked at us in disbelief. Her eyes widened. Lawyer Lin, you? How could you? She felt President Su's image of a cold, aloof boss completely crumble before her eyes. Who was this person hugging me and smiling so sweetly? How could she steal her subordinate's boyfriend? Seeing that I was about to be labeled a cheater, I held Su Qingye's hand tighter, interlacing our fingers naturally. You misunderstand. President Su, she. Before I could finish, Su Qingye chuckled lightly, her voice clear and rich. Anyway, we're together now. Mo Huan immediately imagined a dramatic scenario. She looked at Su Qingye, speechless for a long time, then glared at me fiercely and ran away in anger. I watched Mo Huan run away and said helplessly, "Why did you scare her?" Su Qingye suppressed her laughter. She pulled my hand, speaking with utter frankness. Although I have my selfish motives, I really do want everyone to know that you are my boyfriend. She emphasized the word everyone. Su Qingye didn't beat around the bush and said directly, I know Lu Wei is hostile towards you, and I know he orchestrated the Dongxing project. Don't worry, he's probably having a hard time right now. I was surprised. I hadn't even made a move yet, and Su Qingye had already solved it for me. But soon I calmed down, exuding the confidence and aura of a lawyer. I'm not afraid of his tricks, nor am I in a hurry to deal with him. With his mentality, he'll mess up sooner or later. Su Qingye listened quietly beside me. I glanced at her and asked deliberately, do you think I'm cold-blooded? She smiled faintly. No, because I love you, so I think everything you do is right. I didn't expect Su Qingye to be so direct. My face flushed instantly. Seeing me flustered, Su Qingye laughed even happier. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was my birthday. For our date, Su Qingye booked a restaurant a month in advance. When I opened the door, she was already waiting outside. She took 2 steps closer and looked at me, revealing a rare, imperceptible nervousness. I smiled and said, let's go. Su Qingye immediately followed closely. She kept half a step behind me. I keenly sensed that something was off about her. Seizing a moment, I asked the auntie at the convenience store next door, how long has she been here? The auntie could clearly see our relationship and said with some pity, it's 11 a.m. now. She's been standing here since 8 a.m. Su Qingye waited for 3 hours just like that. I was surprised, but kept a calm face. I turned around, hugged Su Qingye with a smile, and said softly, I don't want to go out anymore. Su Qingye's heart sank. I smiled and said, let's just stay at my place for the day. Okay? I want to spend my birthday alone with you. She lowered her head, hiding her complex emotions deep inside, and breathed a huge sigh of relief. As you wish. Soon we entered my house. Su Qingye volunteered. It's your birthday. I'll cook. With that, she rolled up her sleeves, revealing her arms, white as jade. After opening the fridge, she paused for a moment, then asked hesitantly, can you help me in the kitchen? Just some simple tasks. Is that okay? I sighed deeply. Su Qingye never talked about how the past had hurt her, but that hurt always affected her in an irresistible way. Seemingly cold and strong, but actually insecure, extremely lacking in security. She couldn't bear to lose me again. I didn't point it out, but naturally took the vegetables from Su Qingye's hand. Of course, you underestimate me. Su Qingye lowered her eyes. Even the bangs falling on her forehead couldn't hide her gentle smile. In the kitchen, I washed vegetables earnestly. Su Qingye was forced to sit on a chair and rest. She stared at my focused profile, corners of her mouth rising unconsciously, feeling the intense gaze behind me. I couldn't help but marvel at Su Qingye's transformation. The kitchen suddenly became very quiet. Only the sound of our breathing intertwining. Finally, unable to endure it, I stood up and hugged Su Qingye. The moment our lips met, the ambiguous atmosphere heated up instantly. I whispered in her ear, you know what? Your love has given me enough confidence and courage. But I want to tell you, you are the best too. I won't leave you. Su Qingye leaned into my embrace. Usually calm and steady, her voice was unsteady now. Her voice was soft and gentle, like a drifting feather finally landing. I understand. Thank you for choosing me.